Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn today. My name is Jared Heckbert. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brilliance. And since 1998, Brilliance has been solving problems for manufacturers and distributors in the digital commerce space. And while that has traditionally been our focus, we decided as an organization to extend that offering into the business management software space. And we're really excited to be reviewing that with all of you today. If you get a minute, please give both Acumatica and Brilliance a follow on LinkedIn. We're constantly working on creating great content for all of you out there to consume. So a quick agenda. Today we're going to cover just a brief overview of the Brilliance story. We're going to discuss some challenges that our customers are experiencing and dive a little bit further into what we're hearing from them. Then we're going to introduce you to Acumatica, our new software partner, and we're going to discuss why customers choose Acumatica as a solution. We're going to summarize some of that information, take any questions that you might have, and then we're going to dive into a demo of the Commerce Edition with Josh Fisher. And so with that being said, I have the pleasure of introducing everyone here to Josh Fisher of Acumatica, and I'm going to let him go ahead and maybe do a little brief intro on himself.
Great. Thank you, Jared. So I'm Josh Fisher. I am the product manager of the Retail Commerce Edition at Acumatica. I've been working in the digital marketing space, building out websites for over 15 years now. About 10 years ago, I was launching e-commerce sites for some large national brands, and then someone introduced me to this challenge of integrating ERPs with e-commerce. And I became somewhat addicted to it. And I've been working on this problem ever since. I joined Acumatica in 2018, and we are building, we're honestly, in my opinion, we're building this solution that merchants need in order to use their ERP as the central foundation of their business, and then having the e-commerce platforms become an extension of that ERP. So I'll talk about that more in a little bit, but it's nice to meet everyone, and thanks for joining today.
Yes, thank you, Josh. I'm going to also pass it to Lori McDonald and let her introduce herself and tell you the quick Brilliance overview.
Yes, I'm really excited about this conversation and the solution that exists with Acumatica, and a little bit about us and about me. So I'm Lori McDonald. I started Brilliance in 1998 because the web seemed like a neat place to be. And one of the things that we realized early on was that we were uniquely equipped, based on my technical background and my husband's experience at Rockwell, working with data in this B2B space. We were uniquely equipped to work with manufacturers and distributors, helping them to implement digital commerce solutions. We've grown. We're now a team of 23 and growing, headquartered in Milwaukee. We made the Inc. 5000 list last year. And so we're really excited about that growth and continuing to serve the manufacturing and distribution community.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. So let's dive into some challenges that our customers are experiencing. While you can tie a lot of these problems together, we like to group them into two buckets: digital commerce and content solutions and business management solutions. When we look closer at digital commerce and content and the problems our customers are experiencing in that arena, we're hearing that their customers want to control the sales process, meaning they want access to as many self-service tools as possible. Buying online is no longer an option; it is a requirement. We're hearing that their customers, as they analyze their competition, they're seeing competitors utilizing digital commerce and other digital tools. Outside of that, they see Amazon Business and how rapidly they're growing. Diving further into those, we're hearing that they're concerned over not closing the loop with their data. So they recognize there's an opportunity to leverage data, but they don't necessarily know how to capitalize on it. And there's also apprehension in regards to the sales and customer service teams operating efficiently. Thinking through how can we reinvest their time into being more efficient by leveraging some of these e-commerce and digital tools, making more self-service. And then the last two bullets, technical debt and messy custom solutions are slowing down technical teams and marketing teams. So how can we simplify technical stacks while removing obstacles for the marketing team to be more efficient? Today, we're going to focus more on the business management solution side, so this other bucket, and discuss some of the problems that customers are experiencing around these areas, and we'll address those throughout the presentation. But I'd love for Lori to chime in and explain how is it that we end up becoming an Acumatica partner before transitioning into what we're hearing.
Yes. Yeah. And so, so Brilliance, like I said, we've been in this business for 23 years working with small and mid-market manufacturers and distributors, helping them to leverage digital commerce. And one of the things that we've known and that we've worked with across the board is that, Josh, as you shared, that typically one of the main aspects that presents challenges and opportunities is around that integration to the ERP, and really supporting organizations in our ability to be successful in digital commerce often comes down to the quality of that business management solution and system that an organization has set up. The quality of the data and the quality of that integration has a big impact on the work we do. And so as we were looking at how to better serve this space, and also talking to our customer advisory board that we have, this continues to come up. Data integrations continue to come up as an area to work on. And actually, one of the customers on our customer advisory board was evaluating moving to a new system and chose Acumatica. And it was through that then we started looking at this Acumatica relationship. And in complete transparency, it wasn't the only business management solution we looked at. We looked at some others and decided that we really felt the best about Acumatica, not only based on our customers' feedback, but also we met with Gartner Research and heard their feedback. And one of the things that we found to be true, and I'm sure you'll see today too, is that their platform's really easy to use, and they're really customer focused. So really excited, and obviously we were really excited about the strength of their integration with digital commerce.
Awesome, thank you, Lori. All right, so let's dive into what we're hearing and delve into that a little further. So there's a lot happening in digital right now. Even prior to the pandemic, the idea of digital transformation was already in motion. More than anything, the pandemic has accelerated the need to solve problems digitally. And this new normal or next normal is requiring many organizations to support and empower a distributed or remote workforce. We're hearing that organizations are looking to invest in many other cloud applications. We're also hearing that they need better visibility across their business, from order to delivery to customer management. We're hearing that customers are looking to explore even bigger digital relationships with their customers, going back to that idea of self-service. And on top of that, or the last note that we'd like to point out that we're hearing is, on a regular basis, being in this space as an implementer, we hear that organizations want to invest in digital, but they can't necessarily afford that significant upfront license cost for a brand new system. If you guys can think of any other challenges that your business is facing, I invite you to punch those into the chat box, and we'll see if we can address those throughout the presentation as well. But with that being said, I'm going to keep us moving. So let's introduce you guys to Acumatica. Acumatica is a technology company that's been around for about 12 years now. And we believe that Acumatica is truly the best path for transforming your business to thrive in this new digital economy. And so what do we mean by that? This concept that organizations are going through a digital transformation, and what does that mean? I mean, that digital transformation is such a buzzword right now. Well, it's not unlike the digital transformation that we've all personally gone through. I could list out a million personal examples that I'm sure many of you can relate to, but I'm going to use the following three: banking, photography, and Lambeau Field. So we used to go to the bank to get our money out, or to deposit our money, or to pay a bill, and we would mail in checks. And now we do all that digitally. Even depositing checks you can do on your phone. As far as photography goes, you used to be able to, or you used to have to take film into your local drugstore, Walgreens, or take it to a photo store to get that photo developed. And now we're taking a picture on our phone and we're posting it on the social media, or we're sending it via email. Going to activities and events, required a paper ticket or some level of physical currency. I just personally went to Lambeau, home of the infamous Green Bay Packers, and my entire experience was digitally driven, from purchasing my ticket to using my ticket to get in on my phone, to purchasing for food, to paying for parking, to taking pictures. The whole entire experience was digital. So there's been a personal digital transformation, and that digital transformation has clearly made its way into the business world, and it's evolving rapidly. No longer do we walk down the hall and put a report on somebody's desk. That's now emailed, or better yet, it's embedded in a digital business management solution such as Acumatica, so that anybody at any time can drill into the system and see that information or that report without even have to ask it for it. So we used to have to pick up a phone to check the warehouse, or physically walk into that warehouse to see what we had as far as inventory. That can all be done digitally now as well. So we've moved from this traditional old analog process by utilizing modern technology, and on the outside, that outcome is a new digital business. So I'd love to talk further about how Acumatica is supporting organizations in accelerating that digital business. So Acumatica prides itself on being the cloud ERP for resilient businesses, and there are some foundational elements that Acumatica hangs their hat on. The first one is delivering connected business, making sure everybody in your organization is connected and can see all elements of the business. Of course, that includes with the proper security roles and permissions. The other idea is this idea of rapid integration. So the ability to integrate Acumatica to your other digital cloud investments that you've made. The third is in regards to delivering remote collaboration. So if you go back to what we're hearing in the marketplace, we're hearing that almost every time we talk to a company, how do I solve for having my entire sales team, accounting team, operations team no longer under one roof? How can I empower them to still work in a collaborative environment? And then business resiliency is what happens when something such as COVID-19 hits us. How quickly can I adapt and overcome and change my business model so that I can not only survive disruption, but flourish on the other end? And finally, do I have a solution that allows me to extend or future-proof my organization? These are things that Acumatica brings to the marketplace. All right, so these next few slides, we're going to take a couple minutes to look into how Acumatica is being recognized in the market by a variety of research and analyst groups. And we're going to start with usability. Anytime you are considering making an investment in a new business management solution, there must be a thought of how quickly my employees can adapt and embrace their investment. For those who are not familiar with Nucleus Research, they are a global ROI-focused technology research and advisory service. So on a very regular basis, Nucleus Research goes out to the market and interviews customers. In this graphic here, you can see how usable the investment is. As you can see, Acumatica gets very high remarks from customers. And so what does that mean to you as someone learning about Acumatica? Well, it means that our customers strongly believe that their organizations are embracing and adapting Acumatica quickly. The next organization that I want to talk a little bit further about is the Emotional Footprint Report by Software Reviews. It's another area we like to celebrate, and it's around this concept of user sentiment. User sentiment is the emotional impact a business can have. So this takes a slightly different approach when compared to your traditional research firm. What they do is they anonymously poll their entire worldwide association and obtain feedback in regards to how they feel about their solution. If you look at the graphic closely, you can see that Acumatica is a champion of user sentiment at the top of the iceberg. And if you look at the bottom of the iceberg, you will see Oracle ERP Cloud listed as an outlier. I bring this up because there wasn't enough data or usable data to put them on the chart, and it clearly then highlights that Acumatica is the clear leader from a net emotional footprint standpoint. Ultimately, this report asks the question, am I going to have happy users, and will I have users that can embrace and quickly adopt the solution? The last graphic I want to share in regards to the research and analyst perspective is from July 2020, and it's from IDC. I believe their new one's coming up soon, but this is an evaluation of the cloud-enabled mid-market ERP application. And Acumatica was once again recognized as a leader in this space. While Oracle and SAP may be listed above us, we don't necessarily view them as traditional competitors. If you're interested in discussing that further, we'd be happy to address that. So you can raise your hand in the chat, and we can touch on that, or we can talk about it offline as well. All right, so let's talk about why customers choose Acumatica. As we reflect on all the notes and the rankings and the reviews from industry analysts and research firms, the most important point that I want to convey is that you're making a great choice when you select Acumatica. It's a stable yet innovative, analyst-approved solution, and ultimately, it really should help you sleep at night knowing that you've made that decision. So now that we've covered the fluff, we can jump into the why customers are choosing Acumatica. So the advancement of technology, as we've hit on, it's specific to the digital space, has forever changed our mindset around accessing information. When we want to learn more about a topic, we pull out our phone and type it into our search box. When we want to purchase something, we pull out our phone and open the Amazon app or the Walmart app, and we almost instantly obtain what we're looking for. It, for the most part, does not matter where you are. As long as you can connect to the internet, you can access information from a variety of devices. In that same breath, the same can be said for Acumatica. Say you have to leave the office to help out a friend or pick up a sick kid from school. You can access Acumatica remotely and take any action that needs to be taken. So managing your business anywhere at any time on any device is one of the most primary reasons customers continue to invest in Acumatica. We had talked about a little bit earlier the idea of rapid integrations, and this is another area that draw people to continuing to work with Acumatica. So the cloud, being able to access applications via the cloud. So Acumatica supports ongoing success through an open architecture API layer that supports these rapid integrations. And why is that important to you? Being able to connect and leverage that data from the tools you are using sets businesses up for long-term success. So whether it be your CRM, such as Salesforce, or your commerce solution, such as BigCommerce, or your marketing automation tool like HubSpot, you have the ability to integrate all of these solutions with your Acumatica instance. A couple areas I still want to hit on before we dive into the fun stuff. I know we're all waiting for the Josh Fisher demonstration. I know I am, but let's touch on deployment options. So the next reason why customers are choosing Acumatica is in relation to deployment options. We understand that you might have a pre-existing contract with the data center that would require you to continue to use their services, and that's fine. Acumatica can support that. We also have our public offering, which resides on the Amazon Web Services infrastructure. So let's say you decide to move forward with Acumatica, and you're going to start with your private cloud. But as you look at your roadmap, you want to eventually make that switch to the public offering. And this is where Acumatica shines. You have the ability to move your instance from your private cloud and data center to the public cloud. If you found yourself in a situation where you needed regulatory clouds, for example, that could be a HIPAA compliant cloud, this concept of cloud portability would support that. One of everybody's favorite topics to cover, licensing. And actually, this is a topic when it comes to Acumatica that I thoroughly enjoy getting into. I bring that up because they have removed the traditional concept of licenses and replaced it with this idea of consumption-based pricing. So the title is pretty self-explanatory, but let's review it a little further. You are paying for essentially the computing power that you consume coupled with the functionality your business requires. And why is that exciting? So who here has reviewed a software tool and it's based on per user? I'm sure many of you have that experience. And how many of you have found yourself deliberating on which employees need a license or not? I'm sure, again, many of you have found yourself in that situation. And can we figure out a way then to share credentials or, not have to purchase any additional licenses? We just recently went through a marketing automation platform switch, and I know I was definitely someone who was sitting there going, how can I make sure that I've got the right people on the licenses and saving the most money? Well, Acumatica believes that businesses should not have to make that decision. They believe that all employees should be able to contribute and benefit from the business management system that you invested in. So this consumption-based model supports unlimited users and removes the debate over who gets a license and that concern over, as we continue to add license, when does this tool become cost prohibitive? Creating a model that is truly stable and predictable. One of the last slides I want to cover here is in regards to security. As we hit on earlier, again, the advancement of technology has been amazing for many reasons. It's also created a whole new set of problems for us to solve. And so while security is always going to be an ongoing concern for businesses that are operating digitally, with Acumatica, you get enterprise-grade security features such as multi-factor authentication, server-side logic, and detailed access controls. As promised, in a few minutes, we're going to dive into the demo of Acumatica, and you're going to get a taste of why it is we claim to be best-in-class business and industry functionality. We promise that to ensure that you're going to be able to support purchase orders, manage inventory, support an efficient order-to-cash process, just to name a few. We also offer best-in-class business practice that are connected in real time. So someone creates a quote and places an order. That inventory is automatically updated. From initial order to inventory to manufacturing, Acumatica seamlessly moves you across any of these modules. So let's talk a little bit about the core products. We've kind of hit them at a high level, but these are the core products that are available to anybody when you purchase your Acumatica product. A piece of where Acumatica actually differentiates itself even further is that most organizations that we work with are looking for more out of their relationship with their business management system. And that's where these industry editions can come into play. So they truly have differentiated themselves by creating this unique edition specific to field service, commerce, construction, distribution, and manufacturing. By offering these unique editions, we're able to deepen functionality and relationships. So we hit on the pandemic earlier in our conversation and the change that it brought. As one can imagine, as we're going to be getting into, the Commerce Edition has been quite popular. So this idea of tightly integrated commerce and business management solutions is more prevalent than ever. How can I keep my business functioning while supporting remote work and ensure information is being accurately communicated? Acumatica believes wholeheartedly in ethical business practices. So in fact, they believe so strongly in ethical business practices that they've created an Acumatica Customer Bill of Rights. And I'd like to direct your attention to number 3, consumption-based licensing that does not inhibit business growth. We covered it earlier, but I want to re-emphasize that the consumption-based pricing supports unlimited users. So that idea that you are truly paying for what you use seems like a no-brainer, but it's definitely taken for granted. The next right I'd like to review is number 7, access to their data anytime. This is often a top concern when selecting cloud solutions, but Acumatica makes it really simple for users. Your data is your data. You have access to it at all times. And the last one I want to cover here today is number 9, local business expertise. I think this is really cool personally, and you can call me biased because we're an Acumatica partner, but candidly, we work with other software companies who do not operate this way. And I'll tell you what, it gives me all the confidence in the world in Acumatica because of it. Acumatica only goes to market exclusively through partners. They trust their partners to understand the customer and the community. I'm going to keep us moving, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it to you, Josh, and let you take over from here.
Okay, great. Thank you. There's one thing that I want to say before we get started. So the one thing that Brilliance isn't talking about is themselves. And I just want to point out that, great conversation about Acumatica. It's really interesting for me to hear partners talk about our business because everything that Jared was saying is actually true. Like, it's interesting for me to hear those bullet points and think, yeah, that sounds just like the meetings that we have internally when we're talking about customers and what they need. And the Bill of Rights, 100% true. But what really stands out to me about Brilliance is the fact that they're in a very special place. These guys, I can have a very advanced conversation with them about e-commerce and retail, but I can also have a conversation with them about ERP and the depth of ERP. And I just want you to know that's very rare. It's very rare. I meet agencies often that know the acronyms and they understand the vocabulary of ERP, but actually having an in-depth conversation with a digital agency that can build websites and talk about online customer experiences, but then also talk about inventory management inside of an ERP is very rare. One of the things that I really appreciate about them. Okay, so today I'm going to talk with you about the Retail Commerce Edition. So I mentioned before, I'm Josh Fisher. I've been doing this for over a decade now. I really love this topic, and I'm proud of what we're accomplishing here at Acumatica. one of our goals, what we want to do is build a commerce-enabled ERP that omni-channel retailers can use to integrate to all the different sales channels that they have online. Really, the solution that we're building, we're thinking about many different types of merchants. There's not one specific vertical that we're looking at or one specific group of merchants. We're thinking about B2B merchants, B2C merchants, direct to consumer, and then hybrids. You know, there's a lot of merchants that I work with that are selling to other businesses online, and then one day they wake up and realize, why don't we just go to direct to consumer? We have the potential. We're using the web already, and all of those things are appropriate. So as we're building this product, we're talking to all these different groups individually, and really that's where the product comes from. We spend a lot of time with our customers understanding their needs. We go on site with them. We spend time in their warehouses. We watch how their workers are using the solution, and then we take that feedback and it gets applied to the solution in the future. So here's a statistic that I wanted to share with you. You know, by 2025, 50% of B2B sales transactions are going to happen in an electronic format. Okay, so it's very interesting because the internet, it's still young. It's only been around for 20 years, and we've seen it adopted in so many industries. But in the B2B world, frankly, it's complex. And being able to solve B2B challenges with technology, it's been hard, right? But what the analysts are saying is by 2025, we'll be there. We'll be in a position where half of these businesses are now doing everything online. That digital transformation, this means that 50% of the businesses have figured that out. And one other stat that I want to share with you is when you look at the different B2B businesses that are using the internet as a tool for sales, it's actually the manufacturers that are standing out from the group, which is really interesting because manufacturers are typically the ones that everyone looks at as the most complex. And you know, having a lot of unique use cases. There's no two manufacturers that I've met that function in the same way. And to be able to go through that digital transformation, for some manufacturers, they feel like it's impossible. Well, there's a massive group that have essentially proven them wrong. It's not to say that some businesses, they just don't find their needs, but I meet businesses regularly that think that my products are too complex or my buyers don't want to engage with me online. And over time, they find that that's not true. They just go talk to their customers. I've seen other reports that show that 65% of B2B buyers would prefer to use the internet as a product research tool. And then maybe they make the final transaction online, or maybe in that final transaction state, that's when they reach out to a person to ask their remaining questions and get the deal done. So a little bit about the Retail Commerce Edition. Jared talked about the ERP itself, and the ERP, it's a business management system. It covers everything that you need, everything from accounting to inventory management, customer relationship management. And internally, we talk about the Retail Commerce Edition as a commerce-enabled ERP. So you still have that foundation, all the things that Jared was showing you. But what we're thinking about is how do you take this foundation that's so important for managing your back office and then integrate it seamlessly with these sales channels that you have online. And those sales channels could be an e-commerce site, or they could be a marketplace. We also have partners that build EDI integrations with Acumatica. There's lots of different ways that you can accept those orders and engage with customers online. And our goal is to be conscious of how businesses want to function online and make it easy for them to integrate those solutions with Acumatica so they can manage their business all in one place. And here's a visual tool to kind of illustrate that. So on the left here, we have the ERP with all the different areas of the ERP that we've already talked about. And on the right, in this case today, we're going to be talking about commerce platforms. In specific, I'm going to show you BigCommerce and our integration with BigCommerce. But what I like to say is that with our native integrations, what we're doing is we're making the e-commerce platform an extension of the ERP. So you can manage so much of your business inside the back office, and you get to decide which data is going to be exported out to the e-commerce platform, how you want to filter data, how often you want that data to sync. but really you can put yourself in a position where automated updates are happening on the website. And then as customers are coming to the website and they're creating accounts and then they're checking out, that data is just flowing right back into the ERP in real time if you want it to be, or on a schedule, whatever is appropriate for your business. But what I want you to understand is that those data points are syncing back and forth in such a seamless way that the e-commerce system becomes an extension of the ERP. It's just another tool that sits on top of the ERP. If we look at this visually, on the left here, you see this cylinder that represents the ERP itself, and you have the Acumatica data down on the bottom of the cylinder, and then we have a commerce connector, which is the commerce connector is the software that we've built. It's a layer that sits on top of the ERP, and that's what communicates to these external systems. Okay, so it's built into the ERP. I'll show it to you in a little bit. But we're using REST APIs to send data out to the e-commerce platforms and also pull data back in. What's really interesting, Acumatica we've built native integrations with Shopify and BigCommerce. Okay, but this commerce connector platform, we're actually using API endpoints to grab data out of the ERP itself. So it really is a separate layer that sits on top of the ERP. And what we've done with our recent release with 21R2 is that we've opened up the commerce connector to the community. So you have access to the code now. So what that means is that our partner community, if a merchant comes to them and says, hey, I love this idea of native integrations, but we're not using this system, we need to use this system. Well, the Commerce Connector is an open platform, and partners can use it to integrate with whatever system that they want. And we've been testing this for over a year now. So we have partners that have come to us with e-commerce platforms that are important to their customers, but they're platforms that we're personally not seeing very much. So we said, here's the connector, go ahead and build it, we'll give you some resources. What the VARs have told us, what the partners have told us, is that using the connector framework, it accelerated their development time quite a bit. The estimate that I heard is around 30 to 40% faster to use the connector framework rather than just using the API endpoints. And the other thing that's really nice is that it standardizes the experience of connecting to these external platforms and managing the data. We already have an ISV, a technology partnership program with hundreds of technology partners, and there's integrations between Acumatica and many different platforms. Like I mentioned, EDI platforms, other e-commerce platforms, marketplaces, you name it. And there are lots of technology partners that integrate with Acumatica. We're really hoping that we see that grow exponentially now that we've opened up this commerce connector. I've talked with the folks at Brilliance about Optimizely, and Optimizely is a very, very attractive e-commerce platform, and that's a good example of how this connector could be used to build an integration with Optimizely. When I talk about the integrations, the data that's syncing back and forth, you can see it in this table here. These are all the different rows that represent the data points. So you have customers, stock items, pricing, product information, product availability, sales orders. These are all what we call entities. So they're essentially data points that live in the ERP or they live in the e-commerce platform, and they're all synchronized back and forth individually. And what that means is, let's imagine that your business, you're taking in sales orders constantly, and you need those sales orders to come into the ERP in real time, but you don't change your stock items very often at all. So stock item updates just need to go out to the website, let's just say once a week. You can use a real-time integration on one data point, but then use a scheduled integration on another data point. And then maybe there's a data point that you just sync manually whenever you need to. Maybe you change your price lists once a month or once a quarter. You're just going to manually sync that. You have that level of control, all with no code tools. You don't have to touch any code at all. These are just drop-down menus and checkboxes to get this data flowing exactly as you need it to. And of course, what we're looking at here is BigCommerce. I mentioned before, we have a native integration with Shopify as well. And our integration with Shopify is very similar to the BigCommerce integration. The one thing that I'll say is Shopify today, it really it's focusing primarily on B2C merchants. That's going to change. Shopify just made a public announcement yesterday that they have a B2B edition, which is going to be coming out in 2022. I'm personally excited about that, but today it's really just B2C oriented. So the reason that there's less items on this table is just because there's features that they don't support today out of the box, like customer specific pricing. But okay, so we talked about all the different data points. That's one thing, but what merchants really want to think about is they want to think about the problems, the challenges that they're facing, and what challenges are solved out of the box with the solution. And here you can see this list. This is really, it's just a sample of the things that we see merchants doing with the solution, which is supported right out of the box. Things like products with variants in the middle there. Products with variants, obviously very common. The perfect example is selling t-shirts. If you're going to sell t-shirts, you have to have them in different sizes. All the different sizes are going to be represented by different SKUs. Well, think about if you had to manage each of those different variants individually. Inside of Acumatica, we've built a matrix inventory solution that allows you to design that one t-shirt stock item and then assign the different variants, small, medium, large. Maybe you have another set of variants like red, green, blue, different colors of the t-shirts. Once you design what that t-shirt is, the different ways that it's presented, you click a button and it creates all the stock items for you inside of Acumatica. And you know, t-shirts are one thing. You should talk to a furniture company that keeps individual SKUs on all the different variations. They end up with hundreds, sometimes thousands of variants, right? And once those variants are created, those matrix items inside the ERP, you simply take that template item, the primary item that you use to design the product, and you export that out to the e-commerce site. The e-commerce site's just going to build a product page for you with all the different variant options. If you have price changes based on the different options, it'll apply that information. You sync that out to the e-commerce site. You can sync out product availability for all the individual matrix items. And this is all done automatically. This is what I mean by the extension of the ERP. You're doing your work inside of the ERP. You click a button and the product page is being built for you out on BigCommerce or Shopify, whatever system you're using. And if we go through this list, this is exactly what I mean by out-of-the-box functionality. Once you get the systems connected to each other, which is a relatively straightforward process, these are the kinds of features that you can start using immediately. We have 2 pages of them here. I could probably add a 3rd page, but there's a lot of capability that this system offers, again, to give you the ability to manage your business inside the ERP. Now you're managing your customer's experience from within the ERP as well, okay? So let's jump into a demonstration. We have about 15 minutes left. I definitely want to give you a good demo, but I also want to leave some time at the end to answer any questions you have as well. So today, I want to show you, there's 2 different areas that I want to focus on. I want to show you the basics. So, you know, how things are connected and what it means to place an order online and see it come into the ERP. I can just run through that really quickly. But I imagine that there's some technology-focused people on the phone that are really interested in, well, how does this really connect? What does it look like? Josh is talking about all these no-code tools that give me the ability to control things. What does that mean exactly? So the first thing I want to show is we're in an instance of 21R2 here with Acumatica. Honestly, all these different areas deserve their own hour. So I'm going to talk about commerce today, but you know, inventory management, warehouse management, all the accounting. There's so many different areas of the ERP that we could dive into really deep. I'm just going to you know, scratch the surface and in those areas, and then just talk about commerce. When we go into the commerce section, you see that we have, in this case, we have both the BigCommerce integration and the Shopify integration enabled. It's certainly possible to connect to a BigCommerce store and a Shopify store at the same time. If you had a dozen Shopify stores, you could connect all those to the same ERP. We've seen customers connect to 40, 50 different stores with the same ERP. When we drill into the BigCommerce store, in order to get these systems connected, you're simply creating a set of API keys in BigCommerce. You're dropping them in here. This establishes the connection. And then once the connection is established, you're just going through and setting up your default settings for this particular store. Okay, so I'm going to turn on the entities that I want to enable. I can control the direction of the data flow. I can set which is the primary system. I can turn on and off the real-time sync. I have all these different settings. Same thing with customer settings. What customer class should customers be assigned to when they're imported? Which customer record in the ERP should represent guest customers? We go into inventory settings, very similar. How do we want to handle inventory? Inventory availability is a really interesting topic because you have all this inventory availability inside the ERP, but in the e-commerce site, there's many different things you could do. Maybe you're confident with your inventory levels and you're okay taking back orders, right? If you want to take back orders, that's fine. Then you could just set everything as available and not worry about when things run out. But maybe what if you have a handful of products that you know, if we run out of stock on these products, we're not going to get them again for a month. In that case, you could have your global setting here, and then we could also drill into an individual item, and you have additional settings where you could say this particular item, as soon as it runs out of stock, just take it off the website. You can control that from inside of the ERP. And then when it comes to inventory availability in general, you could say all the inventory in all my warehouses, I want that to export out to the website. Or if you're a little bit more strategic with your inventory, you could choose specific warehouses. You could even drill into specific locations in the warehouses and just say inventory in those locations are what I want representing the items on the website. We get into order settings. Again, how should orders come into the ERP? How are we going to handle refunds? How are we handling discounts? Shipping options. In your e-commerce platform, you have many different shipping options: free shipping, overnight shipping, ground shipping. Maybe you ship LTL and you're integrated with a solution that handles freight. When the orders come into the ERP, the buyer is going to have set what they want to use for shipping inside the e-commerce platform. What this table here is allowing you to do is map those shipping options with ship vias inside the ERP. And the reason that's really important is the customer places their order. You want to automate this process as much as possible. The customer's already told you what they're expecting. So when the order comes in, use the ship via to go ahead and accept the order and then start processing, picking and packing the actual shipment and getting it out the door. If you can automate that as much as possible, it's just less work that your customers have, or your employees have to deal with. We get into payment settings, very similar. Lots of different ways to pay for things online. You could pay with credit card, you could pay with a digital service like PayPal. Maybe you even accept terms from your customers. You set up those terms offline. The terms are saved inside the ERP. You can actually allow those customers to check out with terms on the website. The order will come in, and then you'll handle all of the payments on the backside, on the inside the ERP itself. So this is where you would configure those things. So again, your store payments are set up inside of Acumatica, or I'm sorry, inside the e-commerce system, and then you're going to map those with payment methods inside Acumatica. And if necessary, you can drill into the processing center for credit card processing. Now, one thing that I'll say here, especially in the B2B world, there's a lot of merchants that want to authorize credit cards in the e-commerce site, but they don't want to capture on e-commerce. They want to wait till the order comes in for one of two reasons. One, maybe that order is going to come in and they know that the customer may make adjustments, and they want to wait until all those adjustments are done before they capture that final payment. In that case, you can configure the system to do just that. You can take the authorization inside of the e-commerce platform that passes a token into the ERP. We're not storing any credit card information. We're not doing anything frankly foolish like that. We're allowing the processors to handle those things. But it is going to send in a token, and that token references the credit card processor, and then you can capture the money before you ship out. The other use case that I've seen is when it comes to things like back orders. Maybe it's a business that goes through inventory very quickly. They accept all these orders. There's times whenever they're not going to have stock, and that's just part of their strategy. And they don't want to capture those funds until they know that they can ship things out in an appropriate amount of time. So once you have all these things set up for your store, you're ready to start syncing data. So we can drill into these other windows here. If we go into this prepare area, like I said before, every entity in the system is individual. So I could, for instance, imagine I'm a product manager at a manufacturing plant. I just added 20 new stock items to the ERP, and I want to start preparing these stock items to be sold online. I just come in here, I'm ready to go. I'm going to check this off. I'm going to hit prepare. This is going to grab the data out of the ERP itself, and it's going to bring it into that connector layer, okay? And as soon as this information is prepared, then I'm ready to go into the process area. And from here, I would see all those different stock items, the 20 that I've just created, they're ready. If there's some problem, like in this case, I see that there's some stock items here, and I'm getting an error. This error, I always joke, it's human readable. There's some kind of issue with the sales category. It wasn't configured properly. The thing is, in BigCommerce, they require you to have a product category. So if you create items in the ERP and you forget to set a sales category, the system's going to say, I'm sorry, I can't send this to BigCommerce because you don't have a sales category yet. And I'm getting this human readable error that that actually makes sense to me. So this is how I would handle it if I was preparing and processing data 100% on my own, just checking the time there. And then the other thing is, if you have schedules set up, this is where you would set up the schedules too. The process I just showed you is exactly what you would tell the machine to do. We would just use this scheduling tool to go in and say, every 24 hours, I want you to process stock items. And then as soon as they're processed, I want you to go ahead and push them out to the e-commerce site. You can just set up a schedule to do that. Or you can have data syncing in real time. And when data is syncing in real time, everything's happening for you, but you can go into the sync history here and you can see 100% of the data that's been synchronized between the two systems. So every single node of data that has been synchronized is stored here in your All Records tab. You can drill into the stock items, the customers, the sales orders. If you wanted, you could just remove this and look at everything. This is 100% of the data that you can flip through. And then from here, if there's certain things that I'm looking for instance, I know there's a Nikon camera that I want to push a sync on. I can use these column filter tools to drill straight down to that particular item so that I can find exactly what I'm looking for. So there's my Nikon D7500. That's my favorite demo item. And from here, let's just say for some reason the website's not, it doesn't have the recent updates that I made. I don't know why, but it's not there yet. I can just check this box and hit sync. If there's data that I see here that I don't want to sync any longer, for maybe it's a product that we're going to retire, I can check this off and I can tell the system to skip this item, right? I can even drill into specific rows and I can brute force the connection. For instance, I've never been able to think of a good use case for this, but imagine I find that this ERP product is connected to the wrong product inside of e-commerce. That's obviously not good. So I can go in and edit it, and I can just manually change the product that it should be connected to. And as soon as I hit OK, it's going to force a sync between those two items. And from there on out, every time I make a change in the e-commerce or the ERP, it's going to push it out to the e-commerce platform. So very powerful tools. If you've noticed here, you don't have to be a technical genius to use this system, right? We built this for business managers. We didn't build it for developers. It's not to say that a developer couldn't start using the framework and they could build on top of it. They could build a bunch of extra apps. They could flex the system into whatever they needed it to be. That's great. But they're not the people we thought of when we were building this. We're thinking of those e-commerce managers or those warehouse managers that just need a system where they can quickly come in and find information that they need, okay? Now from here, I just want to drill into the actual website. We have about 5 minutes left. I just want to pull up my favorite demo item here, and I just want to show you the depth of information. So I grabbed that Nikon D7500, and when we look at this inside the ERP, I mean, there's a ton of tabs of information, right? You have information about pricing, warehousing, everything. From the ERP, things like the title information, the pricing information, we go down here to the description. The description is in a WYSIWYG format, so you can actually format your text. There's an e-commerce tab where you can control SEO data like your title tags and your meta description. You can associate YouTube videos with the item. All of this, everything that I'm listing out here gets pushed out to the e-commerce site. If you have attributes on the item, maybe not all the attributes are appropriate for the website, but you can select which attributes get exported out to the website. You can control the different photos. You can add photos to the ERP and push those out. There's the sales categories. Okay, so my point here is that, again, you're managing this information in the ERP. This is where your whole business works today anyway. And the result of your work in the ERP can be shown out on the BigCommerce site as well. Honestly, I could go on about this for another half hour. There's like probably 10 other things I would love to show you, but I'm going to stop there in case anyone has questions. I'm happy to answer your questions. If you ever want a deep dive, just let us know and we'll get on the phone.
Yes, thank you, Josh. That was fantastic. And I too could sit here for another half hour watching you go through it. But to Josh's point, we want to be cognizant of everyone's time here. So if you do have any questions, please punch them into the chat box. We'll be happy to address them at this point. Otherwise, you can always contact us directly as well. Josh, I know there was a question earlier. I received some feedback about the Shopify integration. Nothing specific. They were just looking for more information around the Shopify integration. Is there anything that you would say about that?
Everything that I showed you today, it 100% applies to Shopify as well. So the biggest differences are the Shopify differences. I'll give you an example. Product categories inside BigCommerce do not equal product categories in Shopify. They have a tagging system that they use for organizing products. So our sales categories in the ERP, they'll export out to those tagging systems. And then in Shopify, you design a tagging system that organizes your products however you want. I mean, other than things like that, customer-specific pricing isn't in Shopify today, so we don't support that out of the box. I have heard people have pulled it off, but they've done it through customizations. Those are the big differences. And if you check the news today, just search Acumatica Shopify. There's big news out. I was telling Lori about it earlier today. We're publicly talking about a strategic partnership with Shopify now. And yeah, you'll learn more about that.
There you have it.
I'll just say, that one of the things that I find really exciting about Acumatica is from the fact that you're continuing to make investments in improving the product and taking customer feedback, and clearly this commerce edition and this commerce capability and commerce connector is a real priority organizationally to you as a part of your growth. Understanding the need of digital transformation holistically, which I think is just really exciting for customers who are experiencing these challenges. I hear from customers frequently in calls about, well, yes, we're excited about digital commerce, but how are we going to manage inventory, and how is it going to impact the rest of our business? So really excited about this.
Yep, those are the problems we're trying to solve. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Josh, for taking time out of your very busy day to support us in this lunch and learn today. Really, really value that. And I'm going to just echo again, for those who are interested in learning more or seeing a closer look at Acumatica's Commerce Edition, please engage with us. We'd be happy to organize that for you. We appreciate you guys taking time out of your days to join us for this event today. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.